Hello again. I want to go back to talk a little briefly about the last video I posted there on with the part on trust and vulnerability. So just to explore a little bit more about that. It's really difficult to understand that if you've experienced significant like trauma in your life and people letting you down and not being able to trust people, that the request to trust a therapist has to be significant. You're going to have to explore the idea that I have to go into a therapist and tell them the most painful parts of my history, and um, that would be really really difficult. So it's to explore that yourself. But I will say to you, the expectation is, a lot of the time, my experience is, the expectation is people walk in and they think the therapist needs to hear everything, your entire life, in that first hour. That's not an expectation from any therapist. All the therapist wants for you is to be comfortable, to get to know you, to see how you feel in the room. Is there anything we can do to help you, make you more comfortable? And you know, you just bring what you need to bring. So if it happens to be a test, so you say something like, "I'm going to say this," and see what it's like. What does it feel like for you? Which is really important. Is this uncomfortable to say? And it'll give you a good idea of, when you get to the other stuff, how uncomfortable it is going to be for you. And as I said earlier on, it is going to be uncomfortable. That's part of therapy, but it doesn't have to be all totally uncomfortable. It can be really nice as well. So you get through the uncomfortable stuff, and then you can explore. Well, how was that for you? What's the story? So no, there's a lot of things to consider in that when you're thinking about your trust. So you're trusting a therapist person, who's essentially a stranger. So not expected to say absolutely everything you need to say in that first hour at all. And that's what I think people tend to imagine. I know I certainly did. Maybe I'm assuming, but I certainly did. I remember going to a therapist thinking, I have to tell you this. And then if you change therapists because you didn't like that therapist, I'm going to have to go through this again. There's no expectation to go through anything again, because it's not about the therapist. The therapist doesn't necessarily need to hear all your stuff. Only you need to say if it's going to help you. So you don't need to say it if you don't feel it's going to help you. So it's like the idea of, oh, I have to tell him from birth to now, so he'll get an idea of me, or she'll get an idea of me. It doesn't work like that. It's that your stuff, your pain, your stuff, that's it. If you feel this is going to be of benefit to you to say it, that's what you bring. If you don't feel it's going to be any benefit, the therapist doesn't need to be told it. If you're holding on some kind of shame or stuff like that, that can wait. You can deal with that when you're more comfortable with the therapist, and it feels safer. Because all the therapist wants, is for you to have a little safe space, because we assume you don't have a safe space in your world to be able to offload this and get rid of this pain. So it's quite significant to be aware that you want to trust the therapist completely. And then, as well as that, so there's going to be the idea of the cost. Like, how much is it going to cost to go to therapy? And then it's, do I have the idea of, I want to get to this stage by session number 5 or number 6, which can happen. People tend to go, well, I've this amount of money I want to spend, and this is the time limit I want to go. But I'd offer you this, that if you were going to go to a gym and you were saying, I want to be built like a tank, you're not going to say, I want to be an Adonis by the end of 6 weeks. Realistically, you're not. You're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to do the diet, and you're going to have to do the exercise. You're going to have to do all the regime stuff, which potentially, can be a year, or can be a year and a half. And you think nothing of that. That wouldn't even phase you to say, I go to the gym and I'll do a year's membership, and by the end of the year I'll be this, and then I'll focus on that, whatever. You'd never think of that. But for some reason we kind of go and say to a therapist, well, I want to be, as the term used, it's not my term, but it's a term used, I want to be fixed by this date. That's the assumption that we're all broken. But the thing is, we're not. We're just different. So the thing is, like, if you're going to a therapist, what I'd say to you is, if you can't afford it, look at different. There's so many different options out there. So there's low cost therapy. There's plenty of low cost therapies out there. As well as that, can I afford to go weekly? Do I need to go fortnightly? Some therapists might offer more flexible things and stuff like that. So it's about researching what you want, how you want to pay it. Some therapists offer like a block booking. So they might say we'll sell you 6 sessions, and if you buy the 6 sessions, you pay for 5 or something like that. Or they may have a sliding scale, or they may have a lower cost, and or they may have fortnightly. So it doesn't have to be every single week paying 60, 78, whatever, depending on the area you're in, is the price usually set. So am I going to pay this every week, or is it possible to pay it fortnightly? And if it's okay to pay fortnightly, am I okay to go fortnightly? Which is a really important thing. And then as well, am I ready to go to therapy? So if I haven't considered all this financial implication, I haven't considered all this, am I okay? Is it my right time to go to therapy? Or maybe I can work towards that, and then budget for it and plan for it, because therapy is an incredible investment in you as an individual. It's no different to going to a gym to say, well, I'm working on my physical self. This is working on your mental health. It's like a gym for yourself, your mental health. And you're working on it. You're doing an hour a week. You're not going like a gym. You're going every day or whatever, 3 or 4 times a week. You're going 1 hour a week if you're doing weekly, and that hour a week will once you're consistent, will have significant change. This is what we expect. You'll have significant change in it once you're willing to go into it and do the work. And when you're paying for it, you're going to do the work. So it's just really worth considering and sitting down and thinking the pros and cons of going. If I'm going to go to therapy, maybe I can stop, I don't know, paying for, I wouldn't say paying for food, but maybe paying for the gym or paying for something else. It's kind of like a balance. What can I do? And the reason I'm saying that is because it's worth investing in you. This is an investment in you and your future. And the thing about it is, like, if you're going to be looking at yourself in 5 years down the line and saying, I'll start in 5 years. We don't know what's going to happen from now to 5 years. So the stuff, or as I like to get the stuff that's there, that's happening to you at the moment, may not be getting any easier over the next 5 years. Whereas therapy might help you to be able to support yourself through this. That in 5 years you don't need therapy. You've done 2 years or a year or whatever, and you're going, actually, I'm really well able to manage it now. And in 5 years you're going, imagine that if I had gone to therapy now. So, there's a lot to consider when you're going to therapy, but it's a really, really good investment in you, and it's probably the only thing you'll ever do for yourself, as in fully for yourself. A lot of other things are for other people that we do in life, but this is 100% for you, the individual. Anyway, I hope that didn't confuse you and it helped you a little bit. Anyway, talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.